Hi, welcome back to another episode of Cold Spring Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's videos, we're still working on the 32 Roadsters. The International Roadster, beside the camera lady there, we've got to get the door latches back onto it, close the doors off, close the doors up, so the body has some rigidity. Then we're going to jack it up, put it on the frame that was on, and then it's going to go out and get stuck over in the other garage for a little while. Two reasons. One, we need the room to work on the camera lady's Roadster body. We want to get that off and get that cleaned up. And I'm not going to promise epoxy primed in this video, but I want to at least start working on cleaning it and conditioning the metal to get it ready to epoxy prime. And then also, eventually, we're going to need this bay open because the owner of the International Roadster also owns the 58 Ford cab body. What he would like for me to do is actually work on the 58 Ford cab, do the metal work on the bottom of it and send it back to him quickly. So kind of just switching gears, and then we'll go back to the International Roadster later. As far as Brenda's Roadster goes, the owner, he is getting together as far as I know, a flathead Ford engine and an S10 transmission. Fingers crossed we'll get that in this week and we'll start fitting that into the frame. And then also, I think I said before, we're going to bleed the brakes onto it. So we're probably going to be doing all or some of those this week, or maybe something else will come up. But anyway, stay tuned, follow along, and see what we're doing. Here's the International Roadster where it's going to sit for a little while. Like I said, two things. I have to make room in the other garage to take the camera lady's Roadster body off of her frame and basically do the same thing, prep all the metal and epoxy prime it. And then secondly, like I said, the owner of the International Roadster would like for me to just pause this for a short period of time while we go to work on the 58 cab. I'm not going to start the 58 cab in this episode, obviously. But we're going to carry on working on the camera lady's Roadster and also Brenda's Roadster, and just kind of take advantage of the fact that I've got a little bit of space now to move stuff around. So there's going to be quite a bit of stuff I have to undo in order to get the camera lady's Roadster off of the chassis. But the one good thing about it is because I've got those reinforcing, like the X member there behind the seat, reinforce the cowl, I should be able to pick it up a little easier with the engine hoist here, and then maneuver it out. With the original International Roadster, the way it was built, there's not as much reinforcing, and you kind of have to pick your points where you're going to pick it up. Unless, of course, you got four guys accessible and four guys pick it up and lift it off. But if you're by yourself, you've got to come up with ways of lifting it off. So anyways, we are going to shuffle a few things more around here and start taking stuff out of the camera lady's Roadster body and hopefully get it over here on those stands and start getting it ready to epoxy prime. The only other thing is if the flathead and the transmission show up for Brenda's Roadster, I'll switch to that, but we'll just go day by day here and carry on. Well, it doesn't look like I did very much here, but spent the better part of a day or so cleaning everything up. From when I did the first Roadster body, there was a lot of dust and I had to move the engines and welders back out of the way. And then actually now, finally, we are starting to strip the camera lady's Roadster body down. There's quite a few things we had to take off. I had to take the shifter, the emergency brake, the cowl, brake pedal, handles, and a bunch of other small stuff off of the body to basically prepare it to lift off, because you didn't want to get anything in the way here. I now have the deck lid over here. That's the first thing I'm going to work on. It's really not, it's basically just flash rush, a little bit of surface rush. So we're probably going to use the surface conditioning tool, either with this more abrasive wheel, or there's actually another finer one. I may try the finer one first to see if it does the trick. And then probably I'm going to work on part of the body, the top part of the body, try and get it cleaned up, and then get some of the stuff, like some of the flash rust off on the inside as well. The other thing this week, what I think we're going to do is I'm going to be working on that, but also in the 32 Fords, there were two seat risers. There was one that goes right here, and basically that is for the back of the seat to rest on. And then there's another one that goes along here, and it sits up that the bottom of the seat sits onto. So the plan right now is to make up a couple sets of those, because we need one here for the Camera Ladies Roadster, and we need one for the International Roadster. So what I'll be doing, I'll try to get both of those done this week. And then I know the flathead is coming for Brenda's Roadster this week. I'm just not sure which day. So hopefully it comes before video cutoff time, and we'll get to show you that. And if not, we're just going to keep plugging away on the Camera Ladies Roadster. Well, just spend about an hour with the surface conditioning tool. I've got the outside of the deck lid all cleaned and prepped. I did the underside as well. I did find that the more aggressive wheel was far better at getting it off than what the smoother one there was. One thing I did do, I hooked up my paint fans there underneath the door to try and suck the dust out, because one thing I think I mentioned previously when I used this before was that it just kicks the dust up like crazy. We kind of want to get the air circulation here to pull it out of the garage. So I opened up the back window there, and then I turned those two box fans on, kind of like what I do when I'm painting. Did make a difference. I still was wearing my mask because you don't want to breathe the shit. So pardon my English, but just it's not good. Or at least I'm told it's not good for you, so I'm not taking a chance. So right now I've got about half of the body done. So you can see it cleaned it up pretty good. So half of it took just about doing the deck lid, and half of the outside took about an hour. I still have the other half to do. So you can see some of the surface rust that I haven't taken off there. And I kind of expect to take about another hour to clean the outside. The inside, it isn't quite as bad, so I'm going to have to get in there with some smaller wheels or something. I think I have some smaller type of wheels that I can get inside. I might just put it on something like that. I might just put it on like an air die grinder and go on the inside and try to clean the stuff up. And there's, various brushes and stuff that we can use, but ultimately we want to get the inside as clean as possible, so that when we spray it, that the epoxy primer will stick. So anyway, I'm going to, once I shut the camera off, or first thing in the morning there, I'm going to get the other side done. I'm going to pull the body over further so that I don't get any dust over there on Brenda's Roadster frame. But so far I found that with the box fans going, pulling the air out in the dust, made a massive difference. There's nothing really in the air, and you can see right now, normally when I do something like this and I do a video, the air is all full of dust that's been kicked up. So follow along, we're making progress. So I spent most of the morning doing the same thing to the driver's side of the Camera Ladies 32 Roadster body, trying to get as much as I can done before I actually take it off and put it on the sawhorses. Climbed inside and got most of it done. A lot of the stuff up polished and cleaned, and I still got some more work to do inside here, but the battery powered mini grinder I'm using is a great little mini grinder, but the one thing is I need to get some bigger batteries, because the smaller ones that come with the drill, they don't last very long. I think there's a 5 amp hour and an 8 amp hour one you can get. I've got one 5 amp hour now that works pretty good, but anyways, making good progress. Not a whole lot left to do on the inside. Just probably going to get a rotary file and stick one of those little brushes onto it, try to clean most of the stuff up, suck out as much as I can, and then we'll get the body off and on the sawhorses. But in the meantime, what I'm going to work on is this seat riser that I was talking about right here. I basically measured it out onto a drawing there of where I want it, and allowed for my bending radiuses and whatnot. So it's a straightforward piece to make. It's basically a bunch of bends and a couple bead rolls, a few holes. So what I'll do now, I'm going to cut the piece out. I'm going to lay out where the beads are. We're going to pre-stretch like where these beads are before we go. We'll do that on the English wheel before I bead roll them in. And then I'll repeat that process because I think I've got to make at least 2 and maybe 3 of these because it looks as though Camera Lady's Roadster is going to use it, International Roadster is going to use it, and actually talking to the owner of Brenda's Roadster, and he may want them too. So we'll make 3 of these up, and hopefully they'll look like the originals when we're done. So there's the first 2 steps of making the rear seat riser. As you saw in the time lapse there, I mean, I showed earlier, I laid out everything out. I've got the scratch marks here on both sides because when I go to bend it, I'm going to alternate from side to side in order to make it. So what I did on the English wheel, I probably put about 20 passes on each one of these. I laid out where the bead was going to be. I don't know if you noticed it on the video or not, but as I laid it out, the panel actually started to get a bit of like an arch to it. And then what happens is when you lay the beads in, things tighten back up again. So these are relatively flat now. That doesn't really matter too much because quite literally, I mean, that's what you do anyways. But in this case, we're going to be bending this here, 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 and there. So everything is going to straighten and flatten out anyways like the original is. So one thing I did do, I took a piece of scrap here and I basically put like a little bending plan in place of which end I'm going to bend first. Now, one of the problems is that my brake is only 36 inches. So I've got to go over to Gadet's Hot Rods and they've got a 48-inch one. So I'll be doing the bending and the brake work over at another shop and we'll get these bent up. Once they're bent up, then I will lay out the holes here. And there's a little, well, I'll probably start working on that next before I go over there. But there's a square piece that fits inside here and gives the seat support some strength. Here's an original one that's bent up or beat up quite a bit. Don't know if you can see that or not there. And this would be an original side support that goes up to, I think it goes up to approximately where? I don't know if I can show that or not. It would go something like that once it's straightened out. Hopefully you can see that. I'm just a little bit contorted here inside of the car. But this would go down here, the seat support would be on it, and then this would actually rivet up there. So anyway, we're going to carry on with making the seat support and move this little next project along. So I was able to go over to a friend's place, Gadet's Hot Rods there in Milford. They've got a 48-inch brake, so I was able to bend up those pieces I just showed you earlier. Now they are bent through the beads into it. That's the way they're done. If you look at the originals, it's the same way. There's a few more details I have to work into it, one of which is a little step here. So I've got to create that step on each one of those. Plus we've got to right there, drill some holes to basically make it look like the original. So it will actually rivet down into the floor pan, or rivet or weld down into the floor pan along this flange here. The other thing I worked on between now, well, since the last video was the support piece, I hammered it out a little bit more to get the right shape so that I could actually duplicate it. So I started making up some pieces out of 18 gauge metal. So basically there's my blanks, and then I've marked them out, and I'll clip each end, and then basically this is the there. It would be actually made the opposite side to this one, so the angles are correct. So this piece now will spot weld inside there. So I'm going to have to measure off of the original how far it goes in, and that's the support piece for it to keep it shape. Now the one thing different that I did, I saw someone else do on the originals on this back lip, they've just got it rolled over, and it's just to stiffen it a little bit. What I've done on this, I've actually folded this edge over so it's a lot stronger. I've seen other people do the same thing, and I think maybe some of the reproductions are done that way as well. They're just a little bit stronger. So trying to keep it close to original. Like, we're not doing a restoration here on the Camera Lady's Roadster. We're just kind of trying to make it as much like a 32 Ford as possible. And then anything we can do to improve any element or whatever to make it a little stronger. Like, we put the X members in the body to stiffen it up, and we're going to stiffen this little piece up here too as well. So we're not done yet. Follow along, and we're going to get those done. And potentially I may make an attempt at making these support pieces as well. I've done stuff like that before on other videos when I was doing the 5 window. So video's not over yet. So the next step in building the lower seat support was that there's brackets on either side of the sheet metal that support it on the corner. So I managed to flatten this one out and get the back into the right shape. It's cracked and whatnot. Potentially it could be reused. It is quite thin, but what I decided to do is make my own. So I dimensioned all this up, and then I laid it out, and then I basically bent these pieces up on the brake, and then I took them over, and when I went off of the original here, so you could see where the original hole mounting brackets were right there. So I think that's about 1 inch from the edge. So essentially I drilled a couple holes, and then basically clamped these in place, and then spot welded them through on either end like that. The other thing I did was at the bottom, I needed to create this lip. So basically come in with a cutoff wheel in through here, take a pair of pliers, bend it, and then weld it back again. Some of the Brookville brackets are actually done this way when you buy them from the reproductions. The other thing would be I had to drill the rivet holes here along the bottom, and basically I took the measurements off the original. So I had a couple holes to go off of here, and you can see on the original where this edge is bent up to go over the floor. So I have this one sitting over here in the car right now. So I've made 2 of them up, one for the Camera Lady's Roadster, and then one for the International Roadster. I was asked to make one for that as well. So right now that's not welded in place, because there's 2 more support brackets that we need to make. They go from the side of the lower seat support, and they go up to the top where I guess the roof attaches. I'm not sure if they're there to help the roof attach, or like the convertible top on the rail to support that, or if it actually supports the lower seat mount, or if it's just potentially it could be just there to attach upholstery. I'm not really 100% sure what this rod is for, but I think as I showed you earlier, I'll walk over to the car, it goes in there and attaches. Oh, sorry, my camera skills aren't very good. The camera lady's not here. It attaches there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some of these up, make 4 of them up. Again, this original one might be able to salvage it. I might try and salvage it and at least use one on the International Roadster. But what I've done so far is I've taken some 18 gauge metal, and I did a trial run on what to make. So essentially over here, I bent a piece like this up, and then I started beating the end and flattening it up so I can basically make it look like the original. So there is my trial run right there of what that's going to look like on the bottom. So my intention right now is to take 4 of those, flatten the ends, and then try and make it look as much like the original as possible. So follow along. The lower seat bracket's getting more complicated, but we're making progress on it. So there's the rear lower back seat support. I'm not sure what you want to call it. It's one of 2 pieces that we have to make for the Roadster. Probably don't have the exact words for it, but it's got to go in there, and essentially the back of the seat sits here, and there's usually on the originals there's wood that goes down here as a supporting structure. We'll probably make something in metal. Right now I have that all held in place with clamps. I'm just going to get ready to weld her all up and put her in place because it's where it needs to be. And a few minutes ago, the flathead came in for Brenda's Roadster. Won't be able to do anything with it on this episode, but it is a 239 with a 4-inch Mercury crank into it. So it's a 255 now, bored 40 thou over. It's got stock heads onto it and a stock camshaft, nothing crazy onto it. And we've got the adapters so that we can hook up an S10 transmission. So like I said, won't be doing anything on this episode on it, but it's here now. So on next episode, we'll start putting it in Brenda's Roadster. Oh, and we've got a firewall now, a flat Brookville firewall, which I'll have to clean up and put a coat of epoxy on later. So anyways, we're going to get on welding this up and we'll wrap the video up. So that's it for this week. I did get the lower seat support all welded in place and everything dressed up. Everything's in there nice and tight now. We still have to make the other piece, as I mentioned before, that goes across the front like this. It's tapered up. That'll be next week. We've got the body cleaned down 90%, so we still have to finish cleaning the body up. It still has to get an epoxy primer. Want to get it in epoxy primer on next episode for sure. Over here I did make up an extra set of the seat supports, like I said, for the International Roadster and side supports. So we'll put that over with the International body. And like I said, we've got the flathead now for Brenda's Roadster. So next week we'll work on that as well. But that's it for this week. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send me your comments, and I'll see you next week. Everybody take care.